Chapter 12. Services, the Intangible Product. These questions are the learning objectives guiding the chapter and will be explored in more detail in the following slides. How does the marketing of services differ from the marketing of products? Why is it important that service marketers know what customers expect? What can firms do to help employees provide better service? What should firms do when a service fails? Enterprise Rent-A-Car sees the importance of exceeding customer expectations. Whereas a service is any intangible offering that involves a deed, performance, or effort that cannot be physically possessed, customer service specifically refers to human or mechanical activities firms undertake to help satisfy their customers' needs and wants. By providing good customer service, firms add value to their products or services. This slide illustrates the continuum from a pure services to a pure product. Most offerings, like Pete's, lie somewhere in the middle and include some service and some product. This is one of the oldest cause marketing campaigns. In addition to buying Betty Crocker products, consumers are buying financial support for their schools. Economies of developed countries, like the United States, have become increasingly dependent on services. This dependence and the growth of service-oriented economies in developed countries have emerged for several reasons. It is generally less expensive for firms to manufacture their products in less developed countries. Household maintenance activities have become more specialized, and people place a high value on convenience and leisure. The marketing of services differs from product marketing because of the four fundamental differences involved in services. They are intangible, inseparable, variable, and perishable. The most fundamental difference between a product and a service is that services are intangible. They cannot be touched, tasted, or seen like a pure product can. This intangibility can prove highly challenging to marketers. Some service providers offer cues to help their customers experience and perceive their service more positively, such as TVs in waiting rooms and comfortable chairs to create an atmosphere that appeals to the target market. Because of the intangibility of services, the images marketers use reinforce the benefit or value that a service provides. Another difference between services and products is that services are produced and consumed at the same time. That is, service and consumption are inseparable. Because the service is inseparable from its consumption, customers rarely have the opportunity to try the service before they purchase it. Because this type of purchase risk can be relatively high, services sometimes provide extended warranties and 100% satisfaction guarantees. The more humans are needed to provide a service, the more likely there is to be variability in the service's quality. To reduce the variability in service situations, firms can use training, technology, and even automation. Services are perishable in that they cannot be stored for use in the future. Each of the pictured services is perishable because as soon as the plane or ship departs, the date ends, or the meal is served, there is no possibility of changing. Unsold seats or rooms are lost revenue. Now check yourself. 1. What are the four marketing elements that distinguish services from products? Services are intangible, inseparable, variable, and perishable. 2. Why can't we separate firms into just service or just product sellers? Many of them are a blend and fall within the product-service continuum. 3. What are some of the ethical issues associated with marketing professional services? Advertising is a big ethical issue for professional services. Tension can be created when service providers use marketing tactics to attract clients to their service, but still attempt to maintain a perception of integrity and trustworthiness. Customers have certain expectations about how a service should be delivered. When the delivery of that service fails to meet those expectations, a service gap results. The GAPS model is designed to encourage the systematic examination of all aspects of the service delivery process and prescribe the steps needed to develop an optimal service strategy. The knowledge gap reflects the difference between customers' expectations and the firm's perception of those customer expectations. Firms can close this gap by matching customer expectations with actual service through research. As an example, many doctors believe they should be evaluated on the basis of their credentials and find consumers' interest in wait times, friendliness of staff, and waiting room decor frustrating. Higher education often gets accused of being customer unfriendly. How can a university close the knowledge gap and thus improve service quality and outcomes? Customer expectations are based on their knowledge and experiences. Expectations vary according to the type of service, and people's expectations also vary depending on the situation. To meet or exceed customers' expectations, marketers must determine what those expectations are. Customers generally use 5 distinct service dimensions to determine overall service quality. If you were to apply the 5 service dimensions to your own decision-making process when you selected a college, which provides the service of education, you might find results like those pictured in this slide. Marketing research provides a means to better understand consumers' service expectations and their perceptions of service quality. Today, most service firms have developed voice of customer programs and employ ongoing marketing research to assess how well they are meeting their customers' expectations. The concept of the zone of tolerance refers to the area between customers' expectations regarding their desired service and the minimum level of acceptable service. To define the zone of tolerance, firms ask a series of questions about each service quality dimension that relate to the desired and expected level of service for each dimension, from low to high, customers' perceptions of how well the focal service performs and how well a competitive service performs, from low to high, and the importance of each service quality dimension. This slide illustrates the results of an analysis for the Pooch Palace dog kennel. The rankings on the left are based on a 9-point scale, on which 1 is low and 9 is high. The length of each box illustrates the zone of tolerance for each service quality dimension. To deliver consistently high-quality service, firms must set specific, measurable goals based on customers' expectations. To help ensure that quality, the employees should be involved in the goal setting. To deliver consistently high-quality service, firms must set specific, measurable goals based on customers' expectations. To help ensure that quality, the employees should be involved in the goal setting. Even if there are no other gaps, a delivery gap always results in service failure. Delivery gaps can be reduced when employees are empowered to act in the customer's and the firm's best interests and supported in their efforts so they can do their jobs effectively. Technology can also be employed to reduce delivery gaps. To ensure that service is delivered properly, management needs to support the service provider in several ways. Managers and co-workers should provide emotional support to service providers by demonstrating a concern for their well-being and standing behind their decisions. Service providers should have the required systems and equipment to deliver the service properly. The support that managers provide must be consistent and coherent throughout the organization. Employees should be rewarded for excellent service. The communications gap pertains to the difference between the service promised and the service actually delivered. The communications gap can be reduced by managing customer expectations and communicating service expectations. Additionally, promising only what you can deliver, or possibly even a little less, is an important way to control the communications gap. Now check yourself. 1. Explain the 4 service gaps identified by the GAPS model. 2. List at least 2 ways to overcome each of the 4 service gaps. Answer to both questions. 1. The knowledge gap reflects the difference between customers' expectations and the firm's perception of those customer expectations. Firms can understand consumer expectations and evaluate service quality. 2. The standards gap pertains to the differences between the firm's perceptions of customers' expectations and the service standards it sets. Firms can set appropriate service standards and measure service performance. 3. The delivery gap is the difference between the firm's service standards and the actual service it provides to customers. This gap can be closed by getting employees to meet or exceed service standards by providing incentives and support. 4. The communication gap refers to the difference between the actual service provided to customers and the service that the firm's promotion program promises. If firms are more realistic about the services they can provide and manage customer expectations effectively, they generally can close this gap. Despite a firm's best efforts, sometimes service providers fail to meet customer expectations. Effective service recovery entails listening to the customer, providing a fair solution, and resolving the problem quickly. Customers get very emotional about a service failure, whether the failure is serious or minor. Sometimes, just having someone who listens and tries to understand the issue is sufficient. According to a recent airline study, if the airline provides a reason for delays, travelers are less annoyed by the service interruption. The longer it takes to resolve a service failure, the more irritated the customer will become, and the more people he or she is likely to tell about the problem. Therefore, it is in the firm's best interest to solve problems quickly. The CREST method refers to an acronym that, when carefully implemented, can help resolve service failures. C. Calm the customer. R. Repeat the problem. E. Use empathy statements. S. Solve the problem. T. Make a timely response. Now check yourself. 1. Why must companies worry about service recovery? Despite a firm's best efforts, sometimes service providers fail to meet customer expectations. Effective service recovery efforts can significantly increase customer satisfaction, purchase intentions, and positive word of mouth, though customers' post-recovery satisfaction levels usually fall lower than their satisfaction level prior to the service failure. 2. Name the 2 types of fairness that consumers might demand from a service recovery: distributive fairness and procedural fairness. 3. What does CREST stand for in the model of the same name? C. Calm the customer. R. Repeat the problem. E. Use empathy statements. S. Solve the problem. T. Make a timely response. The communications gap refers to the difference between the actual service provided to customers and the service that the firm's promotion program promises. The delivery gap is the difference between the firm's service standards and the actual service it provides to customers. The knowledge gap reflects the difference between customers' expectations and the firm's perception of those customer expectations. A service is any intangible offering that involves a deed, performance, or effort that cannot be physically possessed. Service quality is the customer's perceptions of how well a service meets or exceeds their expectations. The standards gap is the difference between the firm's service standards and the actual service it provides to customers. A Voice of Customer (VOC) program collects customer inputs and integrates them into managerial decisions. A zone of tolerance is the area between customers' expectations regarding their desired service and the minimum level of acceptable service.